Welcome back to the Brothers Grimm Dark. Today we've got another tutorial for you. So I recently, just yesterday, finished painting my Riptide, and today I'm going to show you how I do my jungle bases. So I've got a nice clean base for him. The way I've modelled him, I want him to be sort of slightly at an angle, up a little bit, raised there. So first thing we're going to do is just get some blocks. These are just leftover bits of sort of the pouring wells from some Forge World models, which are just going to help me get the base in of where his feet are going to go, like so. And then I will build up around that with some milliput. Because these aren't perfectly flat at the bottom, what I'm going to do is just put some milliput on first, just to create a bit more of a surface area. A bit of super glue. And perfect. Next part is just going to take the rest of the milliput and kind of build around there and trying to figure out a sort of scene that's going to be on here. So I kind of want some sort of water feature going through here, so I may end up putting another block sort of around there. And this bit's quite fun because you can just sort of, it's like playing with Play-Doh. Sort of keep smoothing it out and pushing it into positions until you sort of get a look that you like. So I still think I want this back leg raised up just a little bit higher. Okay, how's that? Perfect. I'm just going to push that down just so I know where things are going. Okay, so that is the milliput step done, and now we get to the fun bit. So Epic Basin does an amazing range. I've just focused on most of the tropical plant stuff here, but they do just tons and tons of stuff. So I would highly recommend checking them out. I'll leave a little link down below and maybe up here somewhere. They're very good. So I've got some broken trees here, some bigger trees, and some sort of spindly trees. So I'm going to see what I can do with those bits because I've not used them on my towel yet. So that's what I'm going to start with is the big bits and just see if any of them fit in and work on the piece. It's always good to start with the bigger pieces you're going to use, especially on big bases like this, where you're going to have a fair bit going on. It's going to feel like a little bit of a diorama. Start with the big bits and then work your way from there. I'm going to build down to where the water is going to go. Yeah, smaller one. Now, I'm not looking to completely saturate the piece with plants and rocks and things at this point because I am going to have some plants, not by Epic Basin, that are going to go on at the end. So I'm just looking to leave a little bit of space left over, but still create a decent coverage of foliage. And got some ferns as well. Ferns are great. Stick a couple down here, maybe next to this rock. Like there. And as well as the Epic Basin stuff, I also have some of these bracken bits from GW. So I'm just going to stick them on as well, just to create as much variety as I can. Make things look like a natural forest with all sorts of life competing with each other. good biodiversity and all that. Can we just have one of these down here? And my tweezers. Get that in place. These ones I always think look good, sort of branching over a stream. Like there's a little gap in the canopy above, and they're reaching over for a little bit of light, getting towards the stuff that I think would be growing down by the stream. So we've got some, or very close to the stream, so I've got some nice birds of paradise here. Keep shuffling things around, make sure you're not missing any spots where you think something should be growing. And then I've got these sort of, I'm not sure what they are. They're almost like lily pads. A nice big one. Have him over there, which I think I will. Very close down to the water. And then I think I will just have one little one, or a couple of little ones down here. These grasses, which I think look great for a swamp, they just look perfect. That's exactly where they should be growing. So I just need to find one I like the look of out in the water here. Okay, that's the big bits. Big bits done. Now I've just got these little bits and these grasses here to dot around. So these ones I'm not looking to put in any new position. I'm just looking to build them around the plants that I've already put in. Look natural like that. So I'll start off with these slightly longer grasses. Just take a handful out. And just in here next to the tree. Lovely. Take a handful of them out. And immediately I want one in here. A little bit further up from this rock here. I know I said I wasn't going to add any new sections or new areas where plants are going to grow, but I do think that helps that back section just a little bit. I'm actually just going to stick another rock on back here too. Okay, I think that's looking good. I'm just going to hold my riptide back in place just to see, double check all that is looking good. And I think it is. I'm just going to stick this big rock that I've got just here. I think there needs to be something in here just to break that section up. That rock there. But other than that, I am happy with how that's looking. 4 hours later and the mealie pot is dry. So next step is we're just going to stick some wet ground on by AK Interactive. Yeah, really good stuff. This I'm actually going to spray over the model after this is on, but it'll go on again in the later steps after the spray, so you'll get to see it in full action there. This step is just to provide a little bit of texture. Yeah, just got an old Mankey brush for this, and I'm just going to be slathering this on pretty thickly. Just being a little bit careful around the plants that I've put on, but other than that, I can just dose it on. This next step is by RJA Painting, or Reese, who I had an awesome game against at SM Battle Reports Gibraltar GT. If you've not been to any of their tournaments or checked out their channel, please do. They do awesome stuff. But yeah, Reese, I had this, probably my favorite game of 9th edition actually, which involved Maya Yandin versus his World Eaters, and me killing Angron 3 times in one game, but still losing. It was, yeah, just an awesome, fun game. But anyway, his World Eaters are also on a sort of jungly, swampy terrain, and he gave me the tip of using some dried out baby wipes and stretching them over bits of branches and stuff to look like moss creeping down the trees. So I'm going to give that a try now for the first time and see how it goes. Lessons learned from that first attempt is super glue is a bad idea, but PVA seems to be looking good, but we'll see how that's holding up after a quick spray from a couple colours. So the first one is going to be Death Guard Green, just to give everything a nice greeny murky look, and then over top of that I'm going to do a sort of zenithal of Wraithbone. Okay, this is how the base is looking now. I think the moss has turned out quite well actually on that tree, quite happy with that. So yeah, you can see it's mostly that Wraithbone colour, but the green is showing through a little bit underneath. So first step, I'm just sort of going to work my way up the darker tones to the lighter tones. So we're going to go back to our wet ground earth, and this is going to go on the bottom where the water is going to go, where things are wet. Yeah, I love, especially when you're painting a big army, just little cheat codes you can have like this that you just slap on and it looks great. It gives the effect that you're after when you're already sticking in a lot of detail in other sections. Just having something like this can be really great and rewarding and not detract from the model either. It's super, so I really recommend this stuff by AK Interactive. It's a great addition. And I mustn't forget about the little stream coming down here that I have talked since the start about want to add in. So I'm just going to do that as well. So the next step is covering the rest of the ground area, and for this I like to use 3 contrast paints. I've got Gore-Gunter Fur, I've got Snakebite Leather, and I've got Plague Bearer Flesh. So I have all my pots open. I'm going to apply these all together. There'll be a little bit of cross-contamination between pots, very slightly. But the reason I like to do that is just because it gets the paints to blend as I'm putting them on as well, which I think looks good. So start off with Gore-Gunter, which is going to go down in all the areas closest to the wet area that we just put on with the AK Interactive. It's going to be the lower down sections, but also little blotches going up the sides, just so when I get to those bits there'll be a bit more texture in there as well. Okay, next along in my little row here I've got Snakebite Leather, so I'm going to start applying that pretty liberally as well. Okay, see after those 2 colours most of it is covered, but we've still got Plague Bearer Flesh to go. It's going to be mostly on the raised areas, and because this has that little green tone to it, it sort of suggests that on those raised areas was maybe just a little bit more light coming through from the canopy above. It's helping some plant life to grow on those raised areas. That's the sort of the narrative that I'm spinning in my head for this. And for the rocks, I just do a watered down Administratum Grey. There will be another step later on in the process to just give this a bit more interest, but for now all I'm doing is just applying this watered down Administratum Grey. Okay, that's the rocks done, and now I'm going to move on to the trees. So I'm going to do the inner wood colour first, which I'm going to use Agros Dunes for, and then afterwards I'll be moving on to Garaghax Sewer for the bark. Okay, Agarak's dune's done. Moving on to Kagarak's sewer. Karaghak's sewer. Karaghak's. Oh, I'll get it one day. Right, things are starting to take shape with that trees coloured in now. Coloured in, painted in. So next I think I'll do the moss, which I've not done before, but I think I'm going to go for Ministratum green on this. I think that's the tone I want to go with. Okay, there's the moss done. So we should move on to all this foliage now. So I approached this step in a similar way to how I did the base. I've got my three main green colours. I've got Dark Angel's green, I've got Crandras green, and I've got Striking Scorpion. Now, Crandras and Striking Scorpion are both very bright, vibrant greens, so you might not want to use them depending on the look you're going for. I use them because those colours go into my Tau colour scheme, so it's a way of tying in the models to the base, but you might want to go for something a bit more neutral. In this step, obviously, you can just, whatever greens you use, you can mix and match them however you like, or not necessarily greens. You might feel some of these plants should have a bit different other colours in them. But yeah, you can just paint whatever bits, the colours you like. This is just the way I've chosen to pick out them and decide sort of how I think these plants should be coloured. I find it easier to paint this section by plant type, not so much when I'm working on smaller bases, but on a big base like this where there's lots going on, and you want to be able to blend the paints when they're still a bit wet. I find it easier to just go around and do each plant type one at a time. Yeah, pretty much on each plant I start with the darker colour of the plant first, which I usually focus, obviously, underneath and on the centre of the leaves for the most part. Sometimes I'll do it the other way around, depending on the plant and how I think it should look. Just sort of blotch it on, and then the lighter colour I can put on a bit thicker, and knowing that those darker areas are going to remain dark when it goes on. Okay, as you can see, I'm almost done with that step. I've just got basically the Games Workshop bracken bits to go, and I've also left some of the flowers. The flowers I'm going to do using Imperial Fist yellow, the reason being because, again, it ties in with my Tau colour scheme. Okay, and now I'm going to move on to the bracken with a slight variation to the colours, well, quite a big variation. So I've got Dark Angel's green still as my base, then I've got Emerald, Contrast Eldari Emerald, and Luxion Purple. Again, chosen because it's going to tie in with my Tau. Seeing a theme here. Once again, trying to apply those while the first colour is still wet, just to kind of blend them in together. Get a nice seamless blend across the bracken there. And this combination of three colours just helps to create something a little alien about this jungle, which I like the look of. And I've also got this Birds of Paradise over here, which I'm going to stick in purple as well. Next step is Dirty Dan Moss. If you've not used this stuff before, it's fantastic, but there are a couple of things you need to keep in mind when using it. One, firstly, it needs a very good shake. So if you can hear that, it's got a ball bearing in it, so it usually takes a couple minutes of shaking before that ball bearing starts to move, but then it's good to go. Second is it's very strong, the colour of it, so you want to water it down a lot like 4-to-1 with water is kind of usually the bracket I sort of go, maybe not quite that strong, 3-to-1, but yeah, it needs a fair bit of water in down, and 3, it's water soluble. So don't put paint on top of it and still expect it to keep its effect. You want it to be the last thing before varnishing really that you put on any given surface. So I'm just gonna, and it absolutely ruins brushes. So use a pretty beaten up, not a great brush. Firstly, where we're gonna be sticking this on is on these rocks. That's gonna give them the texture and color that we're after on them. I'm also just going to kind of blotch in some random areas around the model, kind of focusing around plant areas just to sort of make it look like there is plant life growing in those sections. And I'm also going to, no idea what effect this is going to do, but I'm going to apply it to the moss I put on this branch as well and just see what that does to it. Now, when in Rome, stick dirt down, but moss on moss. I think that's how the saying goes. Okay, just while I'm waiting for those things to dry, I've got one more step, and that is adding on some sort of almost like plastic art plants. These are from Gamer's Graphs. I've just picked up a selection here, but I've got twice as many as this, and there's lots of other ones that I don't have, but they've got a really, really great range. Highly recommend checking out them. So I've just picked 5 that I'm going to stick on. So I'm just going to start trying to fiddle around with these and find some good spots for them to go. So because these are different material than the 3D printed ones or the plastic ones from Games Workshop, I just find it adds just another extra little dynamic to the piece that just really brings another level to it. You know, the more, I think, always feel the more things you can get in there, the more textures, just the more dynamic and better it's going to look. Okay, so that is those 5 on. You can see them blended in with the rest there. I'm just going to quickly go around, because they're plastic, they do have white edges because you can't print on that. So I'm just going to quickly go around them. For most of them, I find Plague Bear Flesh is great, just as a sort of to tie in colour. It usually works for most of them. If there's any other ones that are slightly different colour that I think will work better, I'll adjust. But for the most part, I usually stick with Plague Bear. Okay, and that is the edges done on them. We are very close to the end game now. I'm just going to wait for that to dry, the little bits that are still wet in there, and then we'll spray it, we'll come back, and we will start adding those water effects just to tie everything off for the finishing touches. I've sprayed, varnished that, so all those paints will stay on, and now we're back to AK Interactive still water. I do this in 2 layers. The first layer I add just a little bit of Plague Bear to it, just to give it a little bit of depth, and then I'll add a layer on top of that that's just clear. Make it look a bit as realistic as we can. So I've got a decent sized base here, so pouring out a decent bit of this. And yeah, this stuff's super fun to use. Really enjoy it. So because I'm adding a second layer after this, I'm not going to go right up to the edge of where I want the wet layer to be. Just going to do most of it, just to try create the illusion that it's a little bit deeper than it actually is. And any bubbles you find yourself making, you usually don't find there's too many with this, but any bubbles that you do find are being created along the way, just blot them away with your brush. It's pretty easy to get rid of them. Obviously, it's fairly viscous, this, but obviously it is a liquid, so sometimes it will run over the edge of your base if you're not just a little bit careful with it. Okay, and I'll just leave that step to dry. That is that step done. Don't know if you can catch on the camera there, but I've also added in some little buddies, so a couple of frogs and a snake, just to create a little bit extra interest on the base, and that's also going to provide some really nice scale for when the riptide goes on as well. So we've made it. The very last step is now just a pure coat of this AK Interactive still water, and this time, yeah, I'm going to cover it once again all over that wet area, but going a little bit further with it, and in some of these lily pads, I'm also going to put a little dot of it in there. And I'm going to cover the frog just to make him look nice and moist. Snake I won't, I'll leave as he is, but the two frogs, I want to make them look like they have been splashing around a bit in this pool. Get them nice and wet. Okay, I am calling that good. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that to cure, then I'll be painting the black rim on that base, taking some photos so you can see that around about now before the riptide gets stuck on, and then of course I'll be sticking my riptide on, and there'll probably also be some photos of that at the end here. Hope you've really enjoyed this, hope it's been useful for you. Let me know if you have any extra tips for creating really good jungle themes, or if there's other basing techniques you have that you'd like to let us know about, and we can maybe do a tutorial on them going forward. If you enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe, and if you're after even more content from us, head over to our website. I'll leave a link down in the description and up here somewhere. There's lots more content on there for you to view and enjoy, and we'll see you again soon on the Brothers Grimdark.